So the blocking of the deal between Nippon Steel and United Steel is one of the bigger misses and one of the more interesting developments in the political landscape of the West versus the East that we've seen. This is significant. Both President Biden, while campaigning for hopeful President Kamala Harris and President Trump, both expressed their interest in not allowing United Steel to be taken over by Nippon Steel because they wanted United Steel to be an American company. This was placating to obviously the Pennsylvania battleground voters who they wanted to see them as America first and pro-American. But this is another huge miss and a huge deception by the political ruling class in the West, and we'll explain it very easily and very simply. So, if you look at the statistics, if you look at the situation, United States, as of right now, doesn't rank in the top 15 of steel companies in the world. If you look at the rankings, China Vow Group, ArcelorMittal is the only Western company in the list. They're from Luxembourg, but China has the top steel company in the world, the third Japan, which is Nippon Steel is the fourth, China is fifth, sixth, South Korea is seventh, then China is eighth, ninth, India has the 10th, China has the 11th, 12th, 13th, Japan has the 14th, India has the 15th, and then you have Nucor Corporation. It is 16th, and then after that, China, South Korea, China again. And you can bet your bottom dollar China will end up ranking up into, again, into those top of let's say spots 16, 15, and 14 by the end of the decade. Now what does this have to do with the merger? Well, it has a lot to do with the merger and the miss in the merger by the West's own admissions. So, the reason that they don't want U.S. Steel to merge or be taken over by Nippon Steel is because they want it to be an American company, okay? And Nippon's perspective is that they are not giving up on the deal because they are under the same pressure from competition from the Chinese to grow. As I stated on that list, if you look at it, the Chinese are the majority of the list of the largest steel manufacturers. In fact, steel producing for China equates for more than 50% of the global steel production, the whole world. So Japan is not going to be able to sustain itself in competing against these other companies without this merger. Then there's another part of this. Japan is supposed to be, according to the Western leaders in the United States, supposed to be one of its biggest allies. We have many military installations in Japan, we have many troops stationed there. And Japan has been a country that we've, quote-unquote, been involved with or occupied, depending on how you look at it, for many, many years. So the idea that you would feel threatened by a Japanese takeover, yet you at the market shows that both Japan and the United States are under a tremendous amount of market pressure to compete against Chinese companies. Here's another factor that's not being thought about. The whole steel industry, the steel industry in the United States was destroyed, okay, by the politicians themselves who wanted to open up, trade with other countries and actually siphoned off the jobs. If you look at the statistics in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for example, the steel industry, there were almost 500,000 steel workers in the 1950s. That number's down to about 100,000 as of 2025. A significant drop. Where did those 400,000 jobs go? Well, they went overseas, as we stated. In the 1950s, U.S. Steel was the largest steel producer in the world. Now it's not even in the top 15, and you could say, well, like a lot of things, globalization led to competition, which led to the influx of other companies from other countries. Yes, but it also had to do with policy. American political elite changed the tariff system, so we didn't tariff countries that were importing steel into the United States, and that allowed for the United States to then use its navy to then go and protect trade. So we protect the ability of other countries to ship goods to the United States. We don't tariff their goods. Then they put our companies out of business and lower the competitiveness of the American worker against these other companies in other countries. Now, it is not the point of this channel to pass judgment or give an opinion on whether good or bad, because frankly, I have no issue with a company in another country producing a good or service that is wanted or needed by somebody in the United States or anywhere else in the world. I have no issue with that, and there is no issue with that. But there's a disingenuous claim from the American political elite when they say that they want to block a deal, which is very uncapitalistic, by the way. If you're saying you're promoting capitalism, you using your government power to block a merger, it doesn't really jive with what we would consider to be capitalism. So that's very interesting, but nonetheless, you're blocking a merger deal because US Steel is saying they can't survive on their own due to the market conditions, but you're saying you're not allowing them to merge because you don't want them to be not owned by an American firm. You don't want them to reopen the Japanese, but it's the American government's policies that led to these market conditions. And it's the American government's policies of the last 80 years to have an alliance, both economically and militarily, with the country of Japan. So, why do you have an issue with the Japanese taking over this business at the same time it is the American government's political policy to continually antagonize and to stoke the flames of a trade war with countries like China? But at the same time, the market conditions you create are allowing the growth of Chinese steel companies. So I have to ask, what is the end game in the point of blocking this merger? Again, I am not passing judgment on good or bad, but the question has to be asked. There are many jobs that are going to be lost. There's a lot of industry around industry. If let's say United Steel decides in the next 3 to 4 years that they just simply cannot sustain themselves and they have to shutter their doors, well, what happens? Well, the plumbers lose the business. The electricians lose that business. The FedEx delivery, the UPS delivery, the Amazon deliveries, the food deliveries, the people who work there lose their jobs, lose their pensions, lose their health benefits. Then you don't pave the road in front of it, you don't build new fences, you don't open up new banks in the area, you don't sell more real estate. So there's a greater economic impact when you shutter the doors of a very large business in an industry that you've already crushed. So again, the final question is simple. What is the end game? What is the point? You are negative in all directions in this matter. So that's the whole point here. There's no win, there's no point, and there's no clear direction. This is another example of Western politicians either not being educated on the matter or simply being willfully ignorant and leading to absolutely no gain and nothing positive for anyone involved. Thank you.